Hello. In the last video, we said that it is about time that we realize that this universe was created in a very problematic way. We spoke about the Brahmaloka and the Bhuloka, and about the internal levels of spirituality that surround us there, and also about the superior spirituality which is shielded from any creation. We may call this universe a cosmic egg. These names that I'm using are from the Sanskrit language, and it makes it easier to understand what actually happened. And here I have to say that cosmic egg was also used too by mythologies, by all the mythologies that talked about this ancient past. We also mentioned that in the first millennium, Brahma was alone in the Brahmaloka, and then later on he managed to create some clouds using his own material as base, submit to his control, to his will. We may call him Brahma or Yahweh or Allah, as I already said in the first video. We can really use any name we want, because this being is known by several different names depending on the culture that tells his story. This being, let's just call him Brahma, is the oldest being in the universe. He was the first, he is the oldest one. He is the fallen creator, and since the beginning, he has tried to make things work for him. The clones, as well as another species that were created in the Brahmaloka, simply live long lives, billions of years. What we ended up calling angels are in fact clones of Brahma, as I already said. Now, let's try to explain this with more details. As we have mentioned in the previous video, when Brahma created these clones, spirits from superior spirituality decided to dive in the creation using these bodies to try to do something in order to help Brahma. They all lost their memories once they got inside the creation. It was not supposed to be like that, but as we have said, the creation was full of problems, and this was one of them. Since all the clones were submitted to Brahma's will, and since the bodies had the same material as the one of Brahma, he actually saw these beings as an extension of himself. Brahma did not always create his clones in an intentional and planned way. Especially in the beginning, he saw himself as a conscious being, but who commanded several scattered parts. These parts later evolved and became their clones, acting under his command, trying to organize the environment of the Brahmaloka. After the first billion of years had passed, one of these clones made a move against Brahma's will and assaulted him. It was the first time in the universe's history that Brahma realized there was another consciousness working side by side with him in his own creation. He was astonished at that time. Let's call this new one Shiva, this aggressor clone. Shiva was a clone of Brahma. His spirit dove into this universe out of love for Brahma. But inside the creation, the only way for him to exist was to use one of these bodies that we are calling clones. There was another way to do it. Everyone who jumped had submit themselves to Brahma's control, to Brahma's bias. It was only with the passing of time that the spirit of Shiva was able to perform its own action, which was precisely to attack Brahma so that he could stop creating other generations of problematic beings. He had to stop. For Brahma, it was like this hand decided to punch him in the head. Until then, this concept of the other for him did not exist. And for millennia, he reorganized himself to destroy the aggressor clone. When Brahma finally succeeded, there arose the first being that we can classify as a different species in the creation. Let's call it Demo or Demon. And here I have to say that the word demo, the expression demon, the meaning of demon is completely different from the use of Catholic Church thus. Here, demon is only the second kind, the second type of being that appear in the Brahma's creation, in the Jehovah's creation. That's all. The spirit of Shiva resurfaced within Brahma's Brahmaloka as the first demon and started to dispute with Brahma over the control of the universe. When Brahma destroyed the aggressor clone, he was not aware about the internal levels of spirituality. As we said, one of the problems was the fact that Brahma and his clones lost their memories from the time when they were all together in superior spirituality. The spirit of Shiva did not come back to superior spirituality. On the contrary, it stayed inside the tube. It remained in the Brahmaloka and evolved into a new species, which we are now calling Demo or Demon. Today, we may think that angels are good and demons are bad, but this has nothing to do with the truth. Brahma cannot be judged as being good or bad, and nor can any of the species that live in the Brahmaloka. Whatever they are, it is completely different from the biological beings of the Brahmaloka. Some have good intentions, but others are less evolved and can represent what we would classify as being bad or evil. We humans are the same. Some can be called good humans, and some others can be called bad humans. Talking about that, I have to remember one thing. 2,200 years ago, in the ancient Egypt, the scholars that lived in Alexandria, they decided that before this time, there was good demon, bad demon, good angel, bad demon, good God, bad God. But these scholars decide that from now to go on, from that time to go on, angels were good, demons were bad. So the Catholic Church took the word demon and changed it into a kind of devil. And the evil will be joined to the meaning of devil, but it's not true, it's not correct, it's completely wrong. Moving on, the communication was a problem since the beginning, and apparently the only way to fix this creation was to face Brahma in a dispute. Brahma never really understood that Shiva was trying to help him fix the creation, or at least finish it without creating even bigger problems. So, Shiva was a clone who became a demon, but could only do so by losing his clone body, which Brahma really destroyed. The demon body was, and still is, different from the clones. We'll talk more about it later, but for now, understand that they are very different from each other. Shiva created several generations of demons to be able to obey his commands and dispute with Brahma and his clones. It was a kind of war between Brahma and his clones and Shiva and his demons. And all of this happened in the Brahmaloka, not in our universe that we call the Loka. And I'm saying that because at that time there was still no life in the book. As much as they had tried, Brahma and Shiva realized in the midst of their disputes that they could not completely destroy one another. It was a kind of funny thing. Two beings, two powered beings cannot destroy each other. But they had to divide the universe, the Brahmaloka. And so they kept on living together until a third being emerged in the creation from the descendants of Shiva. Let's call this being Vishnu. Brahma, Shiva, and now Vishnu are the three members of the Trimurti. They are the main gods who have influenced everything that happened in this creation. In other words, in superior spirituality, in the face of the problems, several minds began to try to restructure each of these parts vibrationally. In one of these was the spirit of an Adi being, companion of Brahman since before his fall. Some billions of years later, another being, Adi, dives in the creation by assuming a demon body from the definitive source code of Shiva, or in other words, the Nidana of Shiva. And here I have to say, the Nidana of Shiva is the same code, the same Nidana of Brahma, but with Shiva's face. And we're talking more about that in the next video.